G'day team, it's another episode of Closer Look at the Book, and this morning we're going to be talking about the New Testament letters, and these seem like they should be the easiest ones for us to get our heads around because, hey, it's Paul often writing to churches, telling them what to do to live out life as a Christian. So it should be easy, shouldn't it? It should just be read the letter, put it into practice, and we'll be great. Well, the trouble is there's a little bit more to it than that, because not every letter is the same. And not everything that Paul says is necessarily for us. Because when you get right down to it, every letter is written from someone, to someone, and for a reason. So most of the time when we get letters, it's from the bank, and they just want to tell us how much money we've got, or how much money we owe them. Often we'll get a birthday card. It's for a specific time. And so it says, "Happy birthday!" which most of the year actually doesn't apply. So you kind of need to know a little bit about who's writing, who they're writing to, and why they're writing. So we can kind of start sorting out which bits are for us and which bits are not. Because these letters are not to us, but they are often for us. To help us understand, help us to learn a little bit about the journey and where we're headed, just to help us get our heads around it. So I want to pick up the most extreme example. So this is in one of Paul's letters. He's writing to Timothy, and in 2 Timothy 4, there's this little paragraph. It says, "Do your best to come to me quickly. For Demas, because he loved the world, has deserted me and gone to Thessalonica. Crescens has gone to Galatia and Titus to Dalmatia. Only Luke is with me. Get Mark and bring him with you, because he's helpful to me in my ministry. I sent Tychicus to Ephesus. When you come, bring the cloak I left with Carpus at Troas, and my scrolls, especially the parchments." So reading that, if we were to look at the New Testament letters and say, hey, whatever they say, I'm going to do, lots of people are going to be coming and getting me and trying to take me to where Paul is. And at this stage, he was in prison in Rome. If we got there, we quickly discover that Paul's not in prison in Rome just right now. It's just not the way it works. So we need to be aware of who's writing, who they're writing to, and why they're writing. So we need to explore that a little bit. And often the letters will reveal that along the way. So there's like Galatians. Paul's writing to a group of people who are having their faith challenged by some people who are holding firm to the Jewish law, and they're being told that they need to add the Jewish law onto their salvation. So you find that out during the letter, and so the whole cast of the letter follows that direction. Often Paul is writing to churches who are in trouble, who are struggling, and so he might tell them to do things in a time of crisis that they wouldn't actually do all the rest of the time. And there's often, like particularly where there's commands about the role of women, you find often that's in churches in crisis, and maybe that's a situation that's just for that church at that time. For the letter to the Ephesians, Paul just says all those glorious things. He's encouraging them. He's giving them ideas on what the next steps. He's really helping them to go forward because they're doing well. It's good to know. But we just need to know a little bit about what's going on so that we can interpret these things well. And again, this is where we can use other resources, commentaries, talk to other people, explore a little bit more. You can check back into Acts and find out a little bit about more of the context on a lot of these churches, because the story of Acts follows through Paul visiting these. And so we learn, for example, so there's a letter to the Philippians. Paul was there for about 2 weeks. He had a great time with the Philippians. He got thrown in jail and beaten and then got kicked out of the city. And so he had this very short time for him to be able to teach them anything about the faith and what they were doing. But he made the most of it, and they made the most of it. And so he's kind of having to go back through and add some kind of general instructions. But he commends them because they're actually doing good things, led by the Spirit, rather than necessarily by things that he's been teaching them. So it's really, really encouraging. And so he says that he rejoices a lot because he's so stoked that they are following God, even when they haven't had much of a chance to learn from him. So it's just, I guess, a little bit of an introduction to New Testament letters. So remember, they are from someone, to someone, and for a reason. And if we can get our heads around that, that helps us to work out which bits are for us and which bits are to us, because there's a difference. So have fun with the New Testament letters. See you later. Thanks, team.